Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Now today's main headlines. Berlin voices concern over surge in racist attacks on Muslims amid Gaza war. Construction work in Iraq is underway in Holy Shrine of Muslim ibn Aqil's sons. Mosque in France receives message of threat amid increase in hate speech. Efforts underway to include Zubaydah Trail on UNESCO's World Heritage Site. Assalamu alaikum dear viewers, this is Hussein Jawad watching Shia Waves live from Imam Hussein TV 3 in London. Germany on Monday expressed concern over mounting anti-Muslim racism in the country since the start of Gaza war on October 7th. Any attacks on Muslims in Germany for religious or other reasons are absolutely unacceptable, the government spokesperson said at a news conference in Berlin. The nearly 5 million Muslims in Germany have every right to be protected, he added. The Berlin-based Alliance Against Islamophobia and Anti-Muslim Hate, called CLAIM, warned last week of growing anti-Muslim racism amid the escalating Israel-Palestine conflict in Gaza. CLAIM has documented 53 cases of anti-Muslim threats, violence and discrimination in the last 2.5 weeks alone, including 10 attacks on mosques. The Secretary General of the Holy Shia Shrines in Iraq has announced the continuation of the expansion and development work at the Shrine of Muslim ibn Aqil's sons, peace be upon them, in the district of Musayyib in Babylon. The works include the construction of a health facility, a hall for religious events, and the eastern part where brick cutting is currently underway. It pointed out that the health facility at the shrine will consist of 44 units for men and equal number for women, in addition to a 200 square meter hall for religious events, explaining that the cutting of the eastern section, which will cover a total area of 2,000 square meters on 2 floors, is also continuing. Against the backdrop of the tension and escalation of racist, xenophobic acts in France, the mosque in Nanterre, France, received a racist threat. In a document received by the MP Sabrina Safedine for the French party Nouveau Parti Socialite, is stated in this: "We will burn your Quranic schools, mosques, shops, neighborhoods and cities randomly, and we will expel you from France." This threatening message was met with strong condemnation, whereby a few MPs who are still concerned about the security of citizens regardless of their religious affiliation and others surprisingly ignored it. For its part, the French Council for Islamic Religion condemned the threatening message, saying, "The Council strongly condemns the threatening message targeting Muslims in France, which was received by the Nanterre Mosque, stressing that this type of message is the result of hate speech and was made by those who link French Muslims to potential terrorists." Now let's take a look at today's main headlines. Berlin voices concern over surge in racist attacks on Muslims amid Gaza war. Construction works underway in Iraq in Holy Shrine of Muslim ibn Aqil's sons. Mosque in France receives message of threat amid increase in hate speech. Also tonight, media watchdog urges Pakistan to cancel deportation of 200 undocumented Afghan journalists. A third workshop for the preparation of management plan for the Zubaydah Trail as a shared transboundary World Heritage Site was launched in the presence of the chairman of the board of directors of the Arab Regional Center for World Heritage, Khalifa bin Ahmed bin Abdullah Al Khalifa. The workshop will continue until November 9th with the participation of 30 experts from Iraq and Saudi Arabia. Al-Khalifa explained that the Zubaydah Trail, as the first Arab transboundary site to be nominated for the list, will be an opportunity to promote the region's rich civilizational heritage in addition to its contribution to the advancement of sustainable development efforts for local communities on a very large scale. The workshop will address many aspects of managing World Heritage Sites in accordance with international standards in a way that preserves the authenticity and sustainability of the site and the exceptional global value it carries. We have a guest with us now from Pakistan, Dr. Saeed Naqvi. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, how are you today?
Thank you very much. Nice.
Thank you for joining us today on Shia Waves. My first question to you today is, why is the Zubaydah Trail important to be on the UNESCO's World Heritage List?
Zubaydah Trail is a very important historical and cultural heritage of Muslims, and it was in used at least for I think four centuries as imperial route for Hajj. So the Abbasid Caliphate, Abbasid Empire, spent a lot of money and spent a lot of efforts, did a lot of efforts to develop this route. So it has many cultural and historical value for us and shows the architecture and other things. You see, following this route, you can find many dams, water saving facilities, caravansaras, rest areas, and a lot of these things which are significant historically and culturally to show the presence of Muslims and how they lived and how they used to travel for this pilgrimage trip, which was the main Muslim pilgrimage for, and it is still. And being this on as a cultural heritage site, it develops a rich cultural and touristic point for Muslim countries, especially Iraq and Saudi Arabia, for exchange and attracting tourism in this area.
If you could tell us also in a bit more detail, what's the historical significance of the route?
I think first I must say something about the name. No, it's called Zubaydah, Darb Zubaydah. Zubaydah or Jafar was the daughter of Caliph Mansur and wife and cousin of Harun Rashid. She was the route. Why the route is named after her? That's because she was the first person who started to develop this route, because when she went to Hajj and she experienced a lot of troubles in the way, she started to develop this route. And I think she made some dams, water reservoirs, and also rest areas there. And Harun and Zubaydah, they spent a lot of money there and developed this route. That's why it's called Zubaydah's route. And as an imperial route for Hajj, and even it's not just important because of the Abbasid Caliphate, because it was a route for traveling even before Abbasid, and after Abbasid it was also in use. But this Abbasid period is very significant because it has we have many different kinds of kingdoms there that were in charge of political and cultural development at that time. So if we study this route, we can find many layers of archaeological evidence, culture for different periods of time and different kingdoms and rulers of that period. So it's and it starts from Baghdad basically. Initially it was from Kufa, but then when Abbasid kingdom started, Abbasid Caliphate, they added the Baghdad route also. So it starts from Baghdad, when it goes to Kufa, and then it goes to Medina. A branch goes to Medina and another branch goes to Mecca. So it's I think about 1300 kilometers long. So it's a very significant route for cultural and historical and archaeological uh, study.
Okay, thank you very much for
Thank you very much.
for talking to us about the route and the significance of it, and thank you for joining us today on Shia Waves. Inshallah, we'll have you on again soon. Thank you very much. And now we continue with some short news. The Kenyan government announced on Monday a surprise public holiday on November 13th for a nationwide tree planting day, part of its ambitious plan to plant 15 billion trees by 2032. The public across the country were asked to plant trees as a patriotic contribution to the national efforts to save the country from the devastating effects of climate change. Kenya's current forest cover currently stands at around 7%, but the government has set aside more than $80 million this financial year as it bids to increase tree cover to more than 10%. The online Malaysian newspaper Haraka Daily has published an editorial arguing that today's misleading media is a continuation of the deviant Umayyad media in its tools aimed at fighting the righteous Islamic thought to the present day. The newspaper cites the example of the Battle of Karbala, in which the Umayyad Caliph Yazid bin Muawiyah ordered the massacre of Prophet Muhammad's grandsons, Imam Hussein and his companions, peace be upon them. The newspaper concludes that the goals of the new Umayyads, who are the enemies of Islam, are still present in our current era, yet in different forms and techniques, citing the use of artificial intelligence and deep fakes by these enemies to spread lies and propaganda about Islam. 4 servicemen, including a senior officer, were martyred in an intelligence-based operation, IBO, in the remote Tira Valley of Khaybar, the military said in a statement on Monday. The 3 terrorists were also killed and as many injured in the gunfight, which came amid a sharp upsurge in terrorist violence in the country. A series of bomb and gun attacks on security forces, including a brazen assault on a training airbase in Mianwali. Just recently, 17 servicemen were killed in different terrorist attacks in Balochistan and Khyber Pakhtunkhwa provinces. Militant group Tehreek-e-Jihad Pakistan had claimed responsibility for the attack in a statement said to journalists by its spokesperson. Heavy rains and flash flooding have killed at least 40 people and displaced tens of thousands in Kenya and Somalia. As of Sunday, flash floods had destroyed 241 acres of farmland and killed 1,067 livestock, the Kenya Red Cross reported. Heavy rains and flooding have also been reported in the Somali region of Ethiopia, where thousands have been forced to flee their homes after houses and farmlands were destroyed by flood waters. Experts say the magnitude of the current floods is likely to deteriorate in the next few days due to the emergence of more water from upstream in the Ethiopian highlands. A magnitude 5.2 earthquake struck Nepal on Monday, followed by another slightly weaker tremor, injuring 3 people just days after 150 perished in the country's worst earthquake since 2015. According to Jajarkot police, at least 3 people sustained minor injuries on Monday, adding that there are reports of some landslides blocking roads but no deaths so far. At least 153 people died and more than 339 were injured in Friday's 6.4 magnitude earthquake in the Jajarkot region, according to revised figures, as houses in the area collapsed and buildings as far as New Delhi in neighboring India felt aftershocks. The earthquake was the deadliest in the Himalayan country since 2015, when about 9,000 people were killed in 2 earthquakes. An international media watchdog is urging Pakistan not to deport more than 200 Afghan journalists who fled the homeland after the Taliban regained control in August 2021. The plea by Reporters Without Borders comes a week after Pakistan launched a crackdown on undocumented foreigners, mostly an estimated 1.7 million Afghans. They said in a statement that some Afghan journalists in Pakistan have been subjected to harassment and extortion by Pakistani police officers, arbitrary arrest, pressure on landlords to expel Afghan tenants, and never-ending visa application procedures. Pakistani authorities said they would not expel any Afghan journalists facing threats at home, but that they would only consider the cases of genuine working journalists. November 6th is the International Day for the Prevention of Environmental Exploitation in War and Armed Conflict. According to the Ukrainian Prosecutor General, the environmental damage of Russia's invasion of Ukraine totals roughly $56 billion, with the destruction of the Kakhovka Dam as one of the worst disasters. Several explosions have also contaminated water sources, leaving toxic substances that can cause various forms of cancer. After every explosion, particles of toxic substances such as lead, mercury, and depleted uranium are released into the air, water, and soils. More than 12,000 square kilometers, which is around 4,600 square miles, of Ukraine's nature reserves have become a war zone. Populations of rare, endemic, and migrant species suffered great losses. Birds were forced to abandon nests and change their usual migration routes. The efforts of decades-long conservation projects were ruined. We have reached the end of today's Shia Waves show. Let's remind our dear viewers of today's main headlines. Berlin voices concern over surge in racist attacks on Muslims amid Gaza war. Construction in Iraq work is underway in Holy Shrine of Muslim ibn Aqil's sons. Mosque in France receives message of threats amid increase in hate speech. Efforts underway to include Zubaydah Trail on UNESCO's World Heritage Site. Media watchdog urges Pakistan to cancel deportation of 200 undocumented Afghan journalists. Russia-Ukraine war leaving appalling environmental impact, damage totals $56 billion. You can view the latest news on our Shia Waves website, and you can see news of your city or country to be published on our news agency. Contact us on the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Thank you all for watching. We pray to Allah Almighty to hasten the appearance of the Master of our time. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
The mourning season may have come to an end, but the love of Imam Hussein alayhi salam remains eternal. Imam Hussein Tours presents an unmissable ziyarah trip. Join us this December and embark on a journey of faith and discovery. Experience the